All right, we're working some problems from Chapter 2, Section 2.1, where we're going to solve and check equations. All right, we have n minus 3/4 equals 5/6. Now, if you're not sure how to start this, think about if these weren't fractions. If it was n minus 3 equals 5, we can add 3 to both sides. But in this case, it's 3/4, so we want to add 3/4 to both sides. Because what we're going to try to do is isolate the variable n. All right, so if you have n minus 3/4 plus 3/4, we're going to get n on this side. Now, it's a little bit trickier over here. How do I add 5/6 plus 3/4? Well, you could do that on the side. You need to get a common denominator, though, right? So let's see. If I do it down here, down at the right, 5/6, I need to get a common denominator. And I've got 6 and 4 in the denominator, so how about if the denominator was 12? Then 5/6 I could multiply by 2 over 2, correct? And that would be 10/12. And 3/4, to get a 12 in the denominator, I'd have to multiply the bottom by 3, so this would be 9/12. So just so you see how I get that, it'd be 10/12 plus 9/12. So this will give you 19/12. And that's your answer. Now, if you want, you could write that as 19/12, or you could write 1 7/12. Both of those are correct. All right, now let's go ahead and check. So if it's 19/12, I'm going to plug that in for the variable, 19/12, and I want to subtract 3/4. Well, in order to subtract, I'm going to have to get a common denominator. So let's rewrite 3/4 so it has 12 in the denominator, and that would be my multiply top and bottom by 3 again, 9/12. In fact, it was right over here. 3/4 times 3 over 3 gives you 9/12. So I have 19/12 minus 9/12. If you have a common denominator, that would be 10/12, right? And then let's reduce it. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this for now. And to reduce 10/12, you have to divide the top and bottom by 2. I get 5/6. So I simplify the left-hand side and I get 5/6. Now on the right, there's nothing to simplify. It already has 5/6. So there's my answer. Okay, so the answer to this problem is 19/12, or you could write 1 7/12. It doesn't really matter. All right, problem 2. n plus 3/4 equals 2.5. Same type of problem as number 1. We need to isolate n, so I have to subtract 3/4 from both sides. So I'm going to do this a little bit different here. How about going across? If I write n plus 3/4 and I subtract 3/4, and then over here I could write 2.5 minus 3/4. So you could either do it across like this, subtract the 3/4, or do it vertical like I did in the previous problem. Well, on the left side it's easy, you have n. Okay, so what we need to do is 2.5 minus 3/4. This is basic arithmetic, but it is with fractions. So any way you know how to subtract fractions will be fine. Some of you might think of many. You think 2.5 is like $2.50. And 3/4, you could think of that as 75 cents. So if you had $2.50 minus 75 cents, how much money do you have? You figure that out? I got $1.75. Okay, thinking of many, $1.75 back to fractions would be 1 3/4. So some of you might do it that way. All right, how about a more traditional way? We get a common denominator. Well, first you might want to do is, instead of getting a common denominator, is change this to 5/2. So if you want, you could think of this as 5/2 minus 3/4, and then get a common denominator of 4ths. So I would multiply the top and bottom of the 5/2 by 2 to get 10/4 minus 3/4. And that's 7/4. Or 1 3/4 which we problem solved when we thought of $1.75, also got 1 3/4. So it looks like n is 7/4, but of course you could write that as a mixed number. So let's go over here. Now we could do it either way. We could put 7/4 or 1 3/4. I'm going to go ahead and put 7/4. 7/4 in for n, and we're adding 3/4. So that gives me 10/4. Then we reduce it. So this reduces to 5/2. Okay, but on the right-hand side we have 2.5, but that's exactly the same number. So you could write 2.5, or you could write that as 5/2, since 5/2 is the same thing as 2.5. So it checks. So the answer isn't 5/2, right? You just got 5/2 on both sides when you checked the solution, which was 7/4. So the last thing is, how might you write the solution? You could put it in braces if you like. That's the more formal way to write the answer. All right, so the answer to that problem was 7/4 or 1 3/4. All right, number 3, check it out. No fractions. Makes it a little bit easier. So we have 8 minus x equals 14. All right, so notice we don't have just an x on the left-hand side. We have a minus sign in front of the x. You're going to have to keep that in mind. But first let's isolate it so we just have that minus x on that side. So if I have plus 8 over here, I want to subtract 8 from both sides. But that doesn't mean I have x on this side. It means I have a minus sign in front of it. Negative x equals 6. So this is saying the opposite of the answer is 6. Anytime you have a minus sign in front of the variable, you could just multiply or divide both sides by -1, which is the same thing as just taking the opposite of both sides. That's how I like to do it. Just take the opposite of both sides. So that means instead of a negative x, I'll have a plus x. And on the right side, instead of a plus 6, I'll have a negative 6. Okay? So that's how to take the opposite of both sides. You can also think of it as -1x equals 6. And then just say, I'm going to divide both sides by -1. And notice you would also get x equals -6. All right, so you're going to get -6 either way. So the solution hopefully is going to be -6, but we will definitely check it. So we go back up to the original problem, and we're going to plug in not 6, but -6 for x. Be careful that if the answer is -6, you just don't write 8 minus 6. If you did put just 8 minus 6, you would get 2, and 2 doesn't equal 14. So 8 minus -6 means 8 plus 6, which is 14. Now, on the right side, I got 14, so I've checked it. So the solution is -6, and it checks. All right, number 4. There's only one variable m, but it's on the right side of the equation. That's fine. So we're just going to isolate the m. So you have to think of this as m plus 4. So I need to subtract 4 from both sides. And that gives you 28 equals, well, this is going to be 0 plus m. So we're going to just get m, and then you just write your answer as m equals 28. Now, an alternative way to do this is if it says 32 is equal to 4 plus m, I could just switch it and kind of read it the other way around. If you want, you could just write, that's the same thing as saying m plus 4 is 32. If you want to see the variable on the left side, then just take the whole right side and write it on the left, and take the whole left side and put it on the right, and then do the problem. Subtracting 4 from both sides and getting m equals 28. You're still going to get m equals 28, right? All right, so we go over here. Well, on the left side, I got 32. Okay, that's easy. Just write 32. And on the right side, I'm going to put in 28 for m, and then simplify it, which is 32. So it checks. It's because I got the same number on both sides. So the solution here will be 28.